I think we're good. I think we're looking good. Yep, I think we're looking very good. I'm gonna double check the setting here. That looks nice. I think I've got it working. I like the way I look right now. Oh gosh, that's a nice fresh face there. Yeah, for those who want, by the way, thanks for the patience. I know all 15 of you have been patient and waiting for the last 15 minutes. What happened, just for those who are interested in doing live streams, what happened was that I accidentally added a second camera on the YouTube live stream settings. There was an accidental press, but I couldn't get the stream going because I hadn't configured the second camera, which didn't exist. So I just went back to delete that camera, and now things are starting again. I'm still working out the settings for my Surface Pro. I think I've got the 720p working. I'm pretty sure I can get the 1080 working as well. I'm not sure if you're interested in listening to or watching a 1080 stream, but the 720 should be good enough for the live Q&A. I do have my Blue Yeti microphone. That's what I use for my voiceovers. So I'm not using the microphone on the laptop, which makes a lot of sense. But if the microphone or the audio plays up, just let me know, and I'll try and get the mic closer or something. But that should cover it quite well. Anyway, that's the setup. I think we're good now. Okay, finally, yes, people are coming in. Sorry for the delay, guys. Welcome. In case you don't know, I'm NUSensei. I think you should know that by now. And hi. So you might see this setup's a little different. I'm in my study. It is 8:48 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. I'm of course in Melbourne. So it's nighttime here, even with the daylight hours. But hopefully this should be okay. It's not an intrusive background. I've got my laptop here. I've got my desktop just in front of me, so I can follow that along. Yeah, I'm a little pinky. Yeah, yeah. I thought you were referring to me there, but yeah, the room is pink. My whole house is pink, by the way. All right. So, what's going to happen in this live stream? This might take around an hour-ish or so, depending on how we go. I've got a few news items to cover. I want to change the format a bit. I still have the questions that are coming in from the Facebook page and email and YouTube and so on. And I have a few general items to discuss. So I guess this is a news and live Q&A. So I'll do kind of the general updates and news. I'll do the questions which I got, and then we'll do some live Q&A for those who are still here. All right, so I'll just grab my question sheet here, and a hello to viewers. Hopefully this time slot works for many of you. I know it's a bit early for you guys in the US, but last time I was in the morning my time, which was right for the Americans, but not right for the Europeans. So hopefully this should be more fair for the Europeans, and I'll keep on changing the time slot depending on what people want. But I'm generally gonna try to vary it up a bit. And remember, I'm working as well, so I have to look at my schedule. I'm just gonna bring up a couple of things, but otherwise, I think I'm good to go. I'm going to ignore chat for the time being. I'll look at chat a bit later. And if you want to ask me a question, tag me so I can see my name easily, and I'll pick it up on the next read through. So, what is happening right now? For those who have been watching my channel recently, as you know, my archery club, my own club, is now back online. We've rolled out a few things. We have new flags up. We're marking out the shooting lines, and we've got a new backstop, which is really nice right now. So that's basically resolved. We're on a 6-month trial period, and that means that the council will review the club operations after 6 months and see if we've shot anyone, which obviously we won't. I guess the big thing that's come from the whole debacle, the whole crisis, is that the club has gone through that process. I think the club has gone under radar, and because the council staff move around every few years, that at some point they've kind of forgotten the club exists. So whatever processes and documentation was done in the last 2 decades or last decade, that's kind of not there anymore. So we've had to do it from scratch, which means we've had to prove the viability of the sport. We've had to do all these things to show the sport works, that it can be run properly, that it's safe, and so on. It's very tedious stuff. But now that it's done, what that means is that this process has been documented. It's been quite a high profile case in the council, as has been told. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but the club is now back online, and I don't foresee any problems in the future. Might there be some new developments in the future? Possibly. Council speak, this is bureaucracy. They'll promise you things and they'll take it away. So I'm not holding my breath for any new facilities, but at least we're back on the radar on the council side. So that is the club update. I'm looking forward to do some more shooting. I haven't had a chance to shoot outdoors much, despite being spring. I've had some pretty weird weather. It's kind of windy and it's warmish and cold the next day, so it's a little hard to track. But I do look forward to spending a bit more time outdoors. That's the idea. So that's the first bit of club news. The second bit of club news is, for those who've been following my Facebook page, I have decided to not run as president for the next year. I've been president of the club for the last 4 years. I've been doing archery for 6 years, and 4 years has been president. And that's just out of necessity. I was one of the last few who were still at the club, and I was kind of earmarked to be the captain of the ship. So that's been an interesting experience. I didn't stand down as as president. It was more that I chose not to run again. I think 4 years is quite a long time, especially in a volunteer sporting organization. So I wouldn't expect to last more than 4 years. Considering that I really wanted to focus on my own shooting, I felt that the last 4 years has really been dedicated to stabilizing the club, coaching new beginners, giving a new PR look to the club, so doing a Facebook page and just being on the line and interacting with people. I mean, more often than not, I'm turning up to the club without my gear because I know I won't shoot that day, and that's kind of that was the line that I drew. I didn't want to turn up and just not shoot. There's no point paying national membership fees and club fees when I'm not going to shoot anyway. So I don't have so much more time, and given that with the very limited free time that I have that I can dedicate to archery, I don't want to dedicate all my archery time to being a coach or being a president. Most people who do take these roles, or volunteers who take these roles, are usually retired or work part-time. I work full-time and I'm a teacher, so I bring things home. Work's never done, and it's just really hard to balance that. So that was my decision. I don't regret it. It was a hard decision, of course, but I was actually tempted to step back in and nominate again for president because there were some more volunteers who wanted to help out, and that would decrease the workload. But I thought, I'll stick to my guns. I've got to let go. For anyone watching who's volunteering or has been in a situation, then you really know what it's like when you want to hang on to the job, or you want to keep your foot in the door and say, I still want to do this, but you've got to let go of a few things. And I think as a club, the way forward is to let the club survive on its own fruits. We've brought stability. The club is now working as usual, so I don't need to micromanage and try to fight big battles. I think it's best for someone else to rebuild the club in their own way. I want to just do my part and just be the frontline shooter and not be the director anymore. That makes sense. So that's the club front. Quick question from Cartman Ater. I'm a high school teacher. And hello to everybody joining in from Germany and London and other places around the world, Ohio as well. Yeah, I'm a high school teacher. No secret there. Love my job too. I had a question not too long ago from one of my friends actually. Asked me if I was considering doing YouTube full time. The answer is no. I don't really feel like I need to go full time. I don't feel like I would enjoy doing YouTube if it was a full time thing. That means I have to make content daily, and I have to have multiple streams and make content all the time. I find it very stressful. So I'd rather just keep it as a casual thing. I think the freedom of not doing things is what appeals to me. So if I don't want to make a video this week or today, then I don't. And my income doesn't rely on me having to make videos every day. So yeah, I don't plan to do it full time. It's a fun thing. And it's probably gonna stay that way. Could I do full time if I were to be a YouTuber and do things like sell merchandise or do online courses? Possibly, but I don't really intend to. Talk about how cool Grizzly Jim is. Hi Jim. Nice to see you. I think that speaks for itself. I would kind of wear the shirt now and kind of showcase the bow and do the whole Grizzly Jim thing. But yeah, that's something I'll do in the future perhaps. I'll follow the questions a bit later. What I'll do, I'll go through the other news and the other questions now. And if you want to ask questions, then just tag me and I'll see my name in bright orange and I'll read through a bit later. So on my agenda, so that was the club update. The other thing on my agenda, let's pause for a moment. Apple juice. Ah, it's nice. It's pretty warm today over here. Alright, so the other thing on my agenda, I wanted to cover this in a different video, but since I'm here, I thought I'll say it right now. Now, one of the general problems that you might be observing on YouTube recently is this mass demonetization. So for those who haven't been following, YouTube had this big adpocalypse earlier this year with the advertisers boycotting YouTube, and YouTube's had to go back and implement new advertiser-friendly blocks, basically. So if certain videos didn't meet the community guidelines and the advertiser guidelines, then they would have that yellow dollar sign, which means that there will be limited or no ads. And the idea behind this is that certain videos would be inappropriate for advertisers. So like the classic examples were like terrorist recruitment videos or extremist videos. Those would obviously not be suited for an advertiser to display their ad on the video. So that has triggered YouTube to implement this new automated process. So it's a big net. I'm just making sure my stream's still live. I'm green here, but I've paused my video there. I should be. I'm gonna refresh my own video. Yeah. So I'm good. Yeah. So the cause for YouTube to do this is to make sure that videos that are inappropriate don't slip through. Otherwise, the advertisers will stop advertising on YouTube. That affects everybody. So the way the bot works is that it automatically scans the video titles, the video description, video tags, the video thumbnail, and some other formula uses. And if it ticks a certain box or it triggers a certain part of the algorithm, then it becomes demonetized. So you basically get no revenue from that particular video. Now, obviously, it's going to catch all the really extremist videos, but the unfortunate thing is that there is a lot of collateral damage. A lot of channels which are sports or educational or lifestyle or news or politics will automatically trigger the bot. Now, in some ways I understand this because the bot has to, it has to formulate or create an algorithm that's gonna be drawn from human emotion and human interpretation. And the review process is fairly straightforward. You hit the manual review request button and a person will review the video, and more likely it's going to be okay. So it turns green and you're okay to monetize. And the bot will learn from that. So YouTube encourages creators who have incorrectly flagged videos to request a review, and that means the bot will improve, and over time it will learn what is appropriate for YouTube. That's the idea. What's upsetting about this is that this is a bot which shoots first and doesn't ask questions. It's a bot. Of course, it's not going to have any interaction. Everything is automated. Now, I've had all my videos have been flagged, successfully reviewed. The problem is that you have to go through the process. It's very, it's not tedious, but it's actually. I mean, I'm a small channel, so I don't get hit with the big money problems as much as big channels. But it's just disheartening to make a video, and considering that the first, say, 48 hours is the most important time for your video, because that's when most of your subscribers will watch the video right away. So the bulk of your income from a video comes from the first 1 or 2 days. It takes up to 7 days for a video to be reviewed. So I'm gonna lose, or most people will lose, like 80% of the video income if it triggers the automated system, and that's a big pain. There are other ways around it, but obviously you want to make content and you release it as soon as possible. That's a service to the viewers and the fan base, which we strive for. So that's a pain in the bum. And the other problem is that you need to have 1,000 views in the last 7 days for that particular video. So if the video doesn't reach 1,000 views, it won't get reviewed. That's a problem for many of the older videos. The older videos have much smaller traffic, so it's unlikely they'll get 1,000 views in 7 days. If it's a brand new video, then yes, it will probably get 1,000 views in 7 days. But for an old video, it's a trickle. So that means that some certain old videos which I've made, I can no longer monetize because I can't get a manual review. All my recent ones can, but I've lost the income from the first 1,000 and 2,000 views. So that's a big problem, and I do want to make a special mention to a channel which I do watch, Thane Thran. For those of us who watch HEMA videos or the sword videos, you know Thane Thran, and you know the issues that happened in the HEMA community right now. So Thane Thran, for those who don't know, he tests weapons on his channel, swords and other historical stuff, and he actually lost his channel. So he appealed a video ban or video removal, and it turned out that YouTube banned his channel, and that's the end. That's the ultimate punch in the face, and that obviously caused a lot of creators to be very concerned. He got his channel back, but the fact that a creator who's making educational, entertaining videos lost his entire channel, that's really worrying. And if you think about what I'm doing right now, most of my videos are actually being automatic flagged. Why? Because I've got things like, bow, archery, weapon, shooting or something. So it's gonna flag everything. I don't know, it's caused a lot of concern, I guess. And quite a few creators are opening Patreon pages and jumping over to VidMe. I'm not doing that yet, and I don't intend. I've made a VidMe account just in case, but I don't do this for money, so I'm not impacted by this as much as other creators. But I just don't want to bang my head against this bot, because again, one of the problems that we don't actually know what exactly triggers the algorithm or the script to flag the video. If there was a way to know, that means people can avoid it. Now, obviously, as Steph just mentioned, it's learning. It's machine learning. It will get better over time. But how many videos will be struck? How many channels will be deleted because a bot is making these mistakes? That's what I'm just really worried about. I feel that this is not the best approach for YouTube. It is if if people's livelihoods are on the line here, not mine, but other creators are on the line, then they're gonna lose a lot of revenue. They're gonna lose a large part of their income because the bot just keeps on hammering channels. What I feel should happen is that YouTube should, instead of blacklisting videos or blacklisting channels, they should whitelist channels, because I know there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of channels and millions of videos, and a human can't do this. But it's like, as a moderator or as an administrator, if you see that a channel is authentically making proper videos, then it should be whitelisted and none of their videos should be flagged again. There are flaws, yes. There could be a channel which it's okayed now, but then they'll make an extremist racist video later on, and that doesn't want to go through. But it's just so much better than just flagging like every video I make, even though they're authentic sports videos. The last thing that I made was like I did the shoot off, the toe point versus the win and win TFT, and that was automatically flagged. Well, what's flagged about it? It's a sports match. Can you imagine, like, the Olympic archery channel right now? Like, half their videos are like violent sport or shooting or curling or something, and they're gonna be automatically flagged because the thumbnail shows people in a crouch position or something. I don't know. It's just so it's a very flawed system. I can understand an exodus from YouTube, but yeah, that just on the back of my mind. I'm not particularly worried about it because, again, I'm not actually doing this for serious money. It's still a hobby for me. But that was the other bit of news I wanted to share. And yeah, again, quite a few of my videos have been flagged. Successfully read for those who make that 1,000 mark, which is quite more common these days. But yeah, that's one of the small things. Okay, let's take a bit of a breather. I've got about 9 questions to go through. Some of these are really good questions, and I'll take some general questions from the viewers. All right, so let's talk through my questions. I've got 8 questions, so some of these are really good questions. So first question comes from Jay. So the question from Jay is, it basically is helical fletching, is helical the new straight? So a lot of artists now are using helical veins. And the question from Jay is, do you need a helical fletching jig to put veins on helically? The answer is yes, actually, because helical veins are different from normal veins. Now, you may be thinking of offset veins. Those are straight veins which are applied on an angle. I don't have an arrow. I've got arrows here. Give me a second. And that's weird to say I don't have an arrow. I've got like 20,000 in my room right now. So this is your typical arrow. And normally arrows are applied with, so the veins are applied perfectly straight for most factory bought arrows or shop made arrows. There's a zero fuss factor with straight veins. There's nothing wrong with this. Now, certain coaches and professional archers will always insist there should be some offset. With offset, what that means is the vein is tilted slightly in one direction or the other. And it's usually like 1 or 2 degrees. It's not much. But offset will basically impart a more accurate spin, to put in very simple terms. Helical is when the veins are actually curled around the shaft. So instead of angling the vein is kind of pre-angled, if that makes sense. And to apply a helical vein, you do need a helical fletching jig. If you want to offset your veins, then you can use you're meant to use a straight jig. So most fletching jigs have a way to change the angle of the clamp, and that means you can change the angle from one side to the other. But to do helical, you need a specialized helical jig. You can't use straight jigs for helical, and you can't use helical jigs for straight. Good question there. You don't really need it, honestly. Most people won't tell the difference between a straight vein and a helical vein. It's a very precise thing which pro archers will swear by, but most people shouldn't be concerned about that sort of thing. All right, second question comes from John. And John's question is, would you recommend the True Glow Storm 3-pin sight for recurves? I actually have it here. I bought this a while ago because I wanted to do a video on multi-pin sights. So here it is. I haven't used it yet. I was originally going to put this on the Samick Sage just to piss off Samick Sage owners. But now I've got the Mandarin Duck Phantom. I'll put on that instead. But I do have the Toe Point R3 hunting bow, which also comes with a multi-pin sight. So I kind of bought this for no reason. But since I've got it, here it is. This is the True Glow Storm. This one's the 5-pin model, not the 3-pin model. Obviously, the difference is it has 5 pins. The cool thing about the Storm is that it does come with a detachable light. So you, this light here, you can switch it on. And what it does, you can't see on camera here, but it provides a very faint, there it is, you can see the light there, and it illuminates the pins here. That's pretty cool. So when you're in low light conditions, then you can illuminate your pins. They're already quite bright as it is. They're very good high vis stuff. So yeah, is it a good sight? Yeah, definitely. Would you use on recurve? For hunting, yes. I wouldn't really recommend for target. And in general, but the multi-pin sights are not made for target shooting. You can use them target shooting, but the problem with multi-pin sights is that they're basically estimates. It's a very big sight picture. So it's much harder to get a consistent sight picture with the dot on the target. It kind of assumes very consistent anchor and form, and it's more appropriate for short distance shooting. I have come across people who've used this for target, mostly because they had no other sights, and they don't shoot anywhere near as accurately. There's no reason why they can't, but it's just really, really hard to use for target shooting. But otherwise, it's a really good sight to use. I haven't used it personally, but it's something I would recommend. True Glow is a very good brand. I'm getting a lot of questions from people. Am I a teacher? Yes, I am. I've said it quite a few times, and in most of my videos, I say I'm a teacher. I'm way overworked. I am a secondary school teacher or high school teacher, and I teach English and I teach history. We don't have general high school teachers in Australia. You need to have a method to teach. That's your subject area. Yeah, I'm reading chat every now and then, but if you want to ask me a question, just tag my name, NUSensei. I'll see the bright orange when I scroll up. One day I might enable super chat so you can actually like give me tips and funds, and I'll see your chat right away. But otherwise, for now, I'll just leave it as it is. So that was the second question. Question number 3 is from Tracy. Is there an ideal location for the string in your sight picture? I don't have a sight ring with me right now, as far as I know. I have one here somewhere from my Shibuya, so I can't demonstrate. But just for the time being, I'll use my True Glow. That's why it's here. So normally your sight pin's much smaller. This is a huge one. There is no correct side for this the string. So when we talk about string picture, let's say this is your sight pin, and does a string come on this side or this side on the riser or so on. There's no correct way to do this. Most coaches and most coaching books and guides will recommend you put the string on the inside of the sight ring. For a right-handed shooter, that will be the right side. But many shooters will use a different reference point, such as the other side. Some do it down the middle. That's a little harder because it obstructs the target, and some do use the inside of the riser as a reference point. The main thing is, as long as you're consistent, it doesn't really matter where it is. When I started archery, I had a really bad reference point. I didn't realize it, but my sight picture was about this far out. My string was this far out from the sight on the left-hand side, and that was terrible. There was just so much left foot variation. Just didn't work out. You need to be active and paying attention to where the string is. But as long as you pay attention and you're watching the same spot and the same place, you should have that horizontal variable fixed up. That's one of my current problems. I lose focus. I shoot fine, but I don't pay attention to where my string picture is, and that's why I keep having this scattered line. It's a very consistent vertical, like it's dead in the middle, but it goes from left to right or right to left. I'm very bad at actually shooting straight and grouping the gold. I'll check questions a bit later. Question from Muhammad. Have you heard of the Junqing F165 Big Rock? That's an interesting name for a bow. I haven't heard of that particular model. I know the brand Junqing, but I don't know that particular bow. It looks like a fairly normal entry-level aluminium chunky riser. So is it okay? I'm sure it's okay for beginner bow. I don't know anything about it. That said, one of the recent news items which was raised to me was that the ATA, the Archery Trade Association, had delisted two members. One of them was Junqing, and the other one was Ningbo Toe Point. I was just reviewing the Toe Point bows. So apparently, these two Chinese brands, Junqing and Toe Point, have been banned or have been at least suspended from the ATA. And that means they can't go to ATA trade shows and so on. It's not that big a deal for they can still operate as businesses, but they can't operate within ATA's kind of like sphere of influence. And I don't know why. I'm not privy to that information, and I haven't found out why. I'm going to guess that certain Chinese companies have a reputation of ripping off American designs, like the Matthews brand, for example. So I'm going to imagine that since certain Chinese companies have copied certain American designs, and ATA is primarily an American organization, they've probably put an embargo on all these Chinese products. That's why you don't usually find them in legitimate archery pro shops. You often find these Chinese brands relabeled with Western names and sold under particular distributors. I know Australia, for example, has several distributors for exclusively Chinese brands, like for example Atanga or Apex Hunting. So they sell all these packages, but they're all made in China bows with Chinese knockoff designs. I've mentioned a few of these in my avoid cheap equipment videos. I've tested them, and some of the bows are actually quite decent. But I think that history of having copied designs, I think the history of copied designs might have come back to haunt them this year. And again, there's a lot of animosity between the pro shops and the ones that sell stuff on eBay and Amazon and so on. So it's one of those. I mean, a lot of industries and hobbies have the same sort of thing, but it's not particularly pleasant for the industry. All right, the next question comes from Rodolfo. I recognize the name. He's asked quite a few questions before. So the question from Rodolfo is, the bow isn't dropping properly after the shot. Should I use an extender or longer rod or add weight? You'll notice that the professional shooters who have the really elegant drops, they do have an extender and they do have more weight. But does that mean you need it? The answer is no. Your drop, the way the bow drops in your follow through reflects your form, technique, and your equipment. You shouldn't try to change your equipment to achieve a certain drop. So if you feel you need an extender anyway, and many archers benefit from an extender, then go for it. Sorry. So if you need the extender, go for it. But don't try to extend the length of the rod or add more weight just to get a follow through. The follow through, like I said, is a combination of your form, technique, and your equipment. If your equipment is calibrated for your particular style and preference, then keep it that way. You don't need to make it fancy and flary. It's like, for example, the barebow shooters. They will never achieve that fancy flick, but they're not trying to. So prioritize your preference for equipment. Don't try to change your equipment to suit your follow through. Next question comes from Arnis. Can I mix field points and target points, and will the shape of the point affect the point of impact? The answer is yeah, sure. If it's the same weight, then there's no reason why you can't use field and target points interchangeably in the same batch of arrows. they should perform very similarly. Now, is there a difference? Probably. Will you notice it? Probably not. Okay, so I guess if you're, fine tuning and doing 70-meter shooting, then yeah, there might be. But at what point in your at what point in your skill level will you actually notice that difference? So functionally, no, there's no difference between the points. Next question comes from Sue. Thank you, Sue. As a young whippersnapper, am I going to be entering the Pan Pacific Masters? Wow, that's an interesting question. The funny thing with Masters is that like the official tournaments have like the World Archery Tournament or the IFAA tournaments have some kind of qualification that's part of the process, but the Masters are open entry, so anyone can enter them as long as you meet the age minimum. The Masters games are meant for older citizens, not the young professional athletes. And anyone can enter as long as you're like over 30 or something. I was thinking about the World Masters games in New Zealand earlier this year, and I didn't go, but this was like the first year I qualified for it because you had to be above 30. I'm now above 30, so that makes some sense. Am I going? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what event I'll be doing in the near future. Like for example, the one coming up which I always do is the Monash Trophy at Waverley City Archers. But because I've been out of shooting for so long, I don't feel like it. One, I don't have the conditioning anymore. Especially the recurve, you've got to maintain your physical and your mental conditioning. And while going to the events will push me to perform again, I just don't feel like it. I mean, I've just kind of sat back from my president role. I'm gonna chill for a bit, give myself a mental break, and then push myself back into competition. I'm starting to get that feeling of being focused on the shot and being frustrated by bad shots. I'm now starting to kind of get that micro feeling in the body and the mind. And I think once I get comfortable with shooting a game, then I'll start doing some rounds and competitions. But I haven't shot a round since I don't know January or something. So it's I don't feel like it, and that's probably gonna be the case anytime soon. Um, and the last formal question comes from Guillermo, and it's one of the best questions I've had so far, and the wording is great. So the question from Guillermo is, what do you do on days when you are shooting like total ass? Everybody has had this moment, and everybody in chat right now, and every archer has had that feeling of shooting like total ass. Mm. Okay, and the bracket with that is, um, do you keep on pushing through and hope you pick your form back up, or do you call it quits for the day? That's a good question. In my opinion, if whatever you're doing, you have to decide whether it's worth persisting. Now, if you're shooting a tournament, then you have no choice. You have to keep on shooting the competition. But if you're shooting a practice round or just training and you're shooting like ass, then you have to address the problem. If you're in practice and training mode, what I recommend is if you shoot like crap, then do some blank bow shooting. Just go close if possible. If you're not interfering with the range, go to a close target, close your eyes, and just shoot. Get the feeling back. You've got to basically break through that mental block that is stopping you from shooting sweet, and that means remove all distraction. The target is normally the cause of that. Shooting long distance on a small target will normally cause that. You've got to break through that. So shoot at a blank target, shoot close distance, shoot with your eyes closed, get the feeling of form, and rebuild from there. If you intervene soon enough, you might address that problem within the same day, and you're back at shooting normally again. If you let it persist, you might find yourself going through target panic, and it'll take weeks or months to rebuild. But yeah, I recommend that you stop doing competitive shooting. So if you're aiming for a score, stop it and shoot normally. And just to shoot in an environment, in a setting where you can rebuild your confidence. If you just can't do it for the day, and nothing you do seems to break through, I recommend you actually call it quits for the day. And I've been through that situation as well, where you turn to practice. You might be physically tired from the day before. You might be mentally drained or emotionally drained. And as a teacher, I am a teacher. For those who keep asking me, I'm often like really tired by the end of the day, emotionally and physically. It's a very physically and emotionally demanding job, as most of you know. And I just don't feel like shooting. In fact, there are days where I know I'm not going to shoot well, so I bring a different bow. I won't shoot my Olympic Recon. I'll shoot my bear bow just for fun. I'm not going to do well with it. I have no expectations, but because of that, I actually look forward to shooting, and I don't care if I shoot poorly. But yeah, if you try to persist through a bad shooting phase, then you might find yourself building bad habits and reinforcing negatives. So if you can't break through, then I do recommend that you take a break, either temporarily for the day or just call a break for the day and come back when you're refreshed. Try to build good habits rather than reinforcing bad ones. And that brings me to the end of the formal questions. So we've been live for, I believe, just under an hour. Actually, I have no idea. Nothing's turned off right now. But I believe we're close to. We started late, so we started about 9:45. So about half an hour right now to about 40 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna spend the next kind of 15 or so answering the questions. So again, if you've been asking questions, I'll scroll through. And please tag my name so I can see on the feed what the questions are. So I'm going to scroll back to the very beginning. I'll try and catch everything here. So from the very beginning of the chat. So John Lee, hello. Have I tried League of Legends? A gaming question. Good. I'm happy to do gaming questions. Yes, I have. I used to play League quite heavily, actually. There was a phase I went through when I was a bit younger. I played League of Legends back when it was in beta. So back then I heard the game because it was one of the beta games of the year, or the MOBA game of the year. And I used to play Dota, the original Dota on Warcraft, Reign of Chaos, not Frozen Throne, Reign of Chaos. Back when it was there's like 10 champions or 10 heroes. That was it. And then League was the next step up. So I played League, really enjoyed it. Played beta, and I played Season 1. I downloaded the game once more for Season 2, but I played like a few games, and by then I kind of dropped out. I kind of like, I'm not interested anymore. Too many young kids playing. And plus the other thing is that a typical League game takes like 20 minutes. And I don't have that time. I'm a teacher, I'm an archer, so I don't have time to waste on playing a repetitive game. It's fun while it lasted, but I'm no longer a LoL player. For those who are wondering, I did main Janna, and Morgana was my other main as well. Let's see. Again, feel free to keep asking questions while I'm scrolling through. Going down to Cartman. Yes, I'm a high school teacher. I teach English, as I said before. Hi, Grizzly Jim again. And let's see. I'm just trying to grab through. Yeah, real life job from Kenny. I'm a teacher. That's my I think my 10th time I've mentioned it. It's in my description everywhere actually, so it should be fairly obvious. I guess I don't look like one. I mean, if I do look like one, I'm probably like a math teacher or a science teacher or an IT teacher, which I'm not. But yeah, I'm a high school teacher. I guess you're probably used to someone with a bit less personality, someone who's a bit more conservative, and that's something which I find even the case as a teacher, that most teachers tend to be a little reserved. And I am quite an introvert, but when I have to perform, then I'll do so. I have that switch where I can be fearless and just do public speaking and don't care. I've done stage acting as well, so I don't care about this sort of thing. I just do it. I don't have that sense of shame or pride which holds me back. It's a nice thing to let go of. Question from Shibtame Azim. Is it important to expand your back muscles to get through the clicker? Yes, of course. You should activate the clicker with your back muscles, not with your arm. Some people will go to full draw and then they can't get to the clicker, so they'll basically just pull back with the hand, and that's wrong. That's not how you use the clicker. Can you shoot accurately like that? Of course you can, especially at short range. You can still maintain a grouping when using your arm, but the correct way is to basically reach your full length here, then squeeze like that. Just a very subtle squeeze through the clicker. So you need to calibrate your clicker so that when you come to full draw, it should only be just a tiny bit left, only a few millimeters. The better you are at clicker control, the finer the margin will be. Now, for an absolute beginner who's using clicker for the first time, they might find themselves having half an inch. So you come through and have to really squeeze through. But you can't push it closer because, or further away because you'll go through it prematurely because you don't have the control yet. But once you get good form, one thing you might do is to film yourself and the clicker and how close it gets. The better you are, the closer you get, and the less squeeze you have to do. If you have to squeeze too much or stretch too much, then that's gonna throw your shot off. If you under stretch, then that's also gonna be an arm movement, which means more of the string plucking, which you want to avoid. And basically, yeah, you wanna be right up and tight, a slight squeeze, and then it goes off. That's what it should be. Next, I've answered the question already. It's also answered already. Again, please tag my name so I can see it, because I can't see the questions when I'm scrolling through 100 posts. Okay, so a question from Courtney, 55-year-old beginner. Great. This one of my favorite things I'm getting from people, like emails and comments or Facebook messages, is people who are like 50, 60, 70, 80, who have just gotten into or gotten back into archery, and I've used my resources to get back into it. In fact, one of the most recent comments which I got was really nice to see. It was from someone who is 60 years old and was shooting like a 45-pound bow that had torn their shoulder muscles, and they were getting really frustrated because they couldn't shoot anymore. But then they watched the low draw weight video and how I encourage people to shoot low draw weights just for the fun of it. So they went out and bought a Samick Polaris, a Samick Polaris, 24-pound, and they're hitting bullseyes at 40 yards. And that was a great story to share. It was just really good to see people actually remember why they want to do archery. And again, you don't need a super high draw weight to shoot. I mean, it's satisfying, yes, but it's definitely not a requirement. The question from Courtney was, so 55-year-old beginner, no upper body strength, and this is a 20-pound recurve, shooting 5 days a week, 100 arrows, and still feeling sore. Is that too much? Actually, it's not unreasonable to assume that this is quite a heavy load. 5 days a week is a significant commitment. I'm imagining that's 100 hours per session rather than per week. So if you're shooting 5 days a week, that's actually quite heavy. Unless you're a professional archer, I recommend you actually take breaks. Like with all exercise or sport or training, you should routinely or schedule or have a training regimen rather than shoot as much as you can. As much as I want to shoot every single day, I need to rest. Your body needs to rest. You only build strength by allowing your body to rest. So if you find that even with a 20-pound bow that it's sore and it hurts, then pace yourself out a bit more. You might shoot every second day, or might have 2 days break and come back and shoot 2 days. So take it easy on yourself, especially when we get towards the higher age levels. Your body doesn't recover as quickly as it used to. So do take it easy on yourself. I mean, if you're shooting for fun and you're really enjoying it and you don't feel it, that's great. But if you find yourself sore and your shoulders are stiff, then take it easy on yourself. Everyone's different. But if you're not a physical person, especially with no upper body strength, then take the time. It will take time to build the muscles up, and eventually you can shoot with the more stamina. And that's the goal. From Roy, this is Olympic recurve. Roy unknowingly grabs his riser at release. What can I do to stop it? Okay, this is the snatch thing, right? So you shoot, you snatch the riser. very hard to train out. One extreme thing you can do if you have a coach or someone you can trust is to shoot without a sling and let the person catch it. Sometimes you have to recognize that yes, you can let the bow drop. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you don't have someone to catch the bow. But otherwise, what you might want to do is exaggerate the grip. So normally I would not recommend you have an open grip. You need to have a relaxed grip. It should be relaxed, not hands extended. But sometimes you might find that you do this to start with, and then gradually you get confidence to relax the fingers and let it drop. But I guess what you can do is to focus on something else. Because you're thinking about and anticipating the bow dropping, you're snatching it. Think about a different part of the shot process to mentally distract yourself. It might be your release, it might be actually your follow through, for example. You might think about pushing and throwing the hand out instead of leaving it there and trying to be passive. Try to maybe have in your last release, and go actually push the bow forwards rather than just letting it drop, and that might counteract your natural tendency to grip the bow. Let's see. From Talal, what is the best material to use to mark the point where I lock my arrow nock? Okay. I'm guessing. I'm trying to reread this. What is the best material to use to mark the point where I lock my arrow nock to the string for knocking point? Okay. Thread. Any thread will do. Most archers will use serving thread because they already have serving thread, and that's just a cheap thread to use. You can use anything. You can use cotton thread. You can use sewing thread. You can use dental floss. Anything you can wrap around the string is fine. Some people use brass knocking points. That's more for beginner bows. Brass is a little heavy and it slows the string down, so the professional archers don't do it. Most people use thread. Any thread will do. Serving is very popular because, again, we all have it as an archer. But otherwise, any thread will do. Scape Nation. Let's see. Oh, I watched your clicker video. Asked my coach about getting one. He said there were a lot of troubles as people shred fletchings, draw wrong, do what? Okay. Okay. So the question is, should you wait until you shoot outdoors to use a clicker? No. Use a clicker as soon as possible. If a coach says it's too much hassle, that's unfortunately I'm gonna say it's BS. I don't like undermining coaches. Coaches know their archers best. At the same time, though, I've never come across a good coach, who tells people not to use a clicker. The only reason why someone might not use a clicker is if their draw is so erratic they need to stabilize the draw length first. But for nearly every archer, the sooner they learn to shoot with a clicker, the more control they have on their shot process, on their draw length, and their clicker control. All these things take a very fine amount of control and a lot of training. The clicker should not shred fletchings. If you shoot through it, yeah, it might, but you shouldn't. I've never lost a fletching to a clicker, unless I shot through it. Even then, I rarely did too. I think it's very conservative advice. It may be the coach is not familiar with clickers, especially if you're a compound shooter or a trad shooter where clickers aren't a thing. Otherwise, if you properly calibrate your clicker and you learn to use it properly, the sooner you do so, the better off you are. That's it. Yeah, people might do weird things like drawing strangely. That can be fixed. There's no reason why you shouldn't use clicker indoors. You watch any pro archer shoot indoors, they're using a clicker. The way you shoot at 18 meters is no different than the way you shoot at 70 meters. Clicker will help you shoot accurately. So I recommend as soon as you have a stable draw length, then start training with a clicker. It's a hassle because you become clicker fixated and you start panicking when you don't draw properly, but otherwise it's actually not a bad thing. As soon as you can, I recommend. David Seamus from Bermuda. The difference about equipment used that is not allowed in competitions. I am not sure exactly what the question is. I'll reread that. Difference about equipment used that is not allowed in competitions. Um, that's not a question. Sorry, Dave. That's not a question. But I guess the thing with equipment that's generally used in archery clubs is that the club equipment models the competition rather than the other way around. So, like a person probably wouldn't buy equipment that is non-standard because there's no pathway for them. There are some examples, like for example, people might shoot a recurve bow with a D loop and a release aid, but that's really rare. I mean, sure you can fit a magnified lens on a recurve, but there's no reason to do so. So yeah, I might come back to that question if I see it later on, but I'm not sure exactly what the question is. Um, so yeah, most equipment used in the shooting environments are meant to be used in competition anyway. Blackfire 89. How does it feel to have viewers all over the world? Do you enjoy that? That's a good question. I mean, like since I started, I mean, like the last year alone, I've gone like 20,000 subscribers or something. So, I mean, it's a gradual growth. I'm not a celebrity overnight. It's something which I usually forget. And again, the main reason is in my day job, I have like 30 people in front of me all the time. So I'm not used to having 10,000 people following me, and I'm always like it's always nice to hear from people. I don't always respond to everybody, but it's nice to hear from people from around the world who say that they just started archery, and they really want to thank me for sharing what I do, and that's great and all that. And yeah, it does feel good. It's a great wonder of the 21st century, having the internet, having social media, having YouTube, and being able to share this, and especially for those who don't have access to coaches. And I'm here to give you something. I'm not the best person, but I'm giving you something, and that's enough for many people. And it actually is really nice to get that feedback from people around the world. Mustache Girl, is archery hard? Simply put, an activity which is easy to learn but difficult to master. That's the best way to put it. Abdul Rahim, the Junshin F155. I think I said before with the Junshin F165. It's your typical cheap entry level bow. Is it great for competition? Not really. Is it good to get started? Fine. It should be fine, but it's not going to be a great bow to compete with. One of the problems with the really cheap target bows is that most of them aren't ILF compatible. I think the Junshin might be. The F155, I think the 165 is. But it's a copy design. I don't think they have a license to manufacture the Hoyt system, which is the RF system. But most of those bows have no tuning options. It's why when I review the Toe Point R2, it's fine for beginners. It's not fine for serious shooting because you can't tune it. Everything comes as is. You can't change your tiller bolt. You can't do any limb adjustment. It comes as is. And for 90% of beginner shooters, it's enough. But for competition, you need some fine tuning to make it work. Otherwise, it's really hard to do so. Okay, Alien on Mars. Trying to spread archery amongst my friends. How would you go about getting people loosely interested in archery to try and keep with the sport? Um, let's see. If you're talking about getting people to try archery, then find the nearest club and just bring them along to a session. But if it's people um, who have done it and you want to keep them into it, that's pretty hard. Like you can't really coerce someone or force someone to do it. I've been in a situation as well. I wasn't the first archer. My friends. My friends wanted to do archery first. They dragged me along. I liked it. I liked it. I stuck with it. They didn't. As often as I could, I would invite them to train or practice or shoot when they could. But many of them they just couldn't make it. They couldn't commit, and they didn't do archery the way I did. So there's no way to really entice people. If they like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. So I guess the general advice is to give them as many opportunities as possible, but not be in their face about it. I think too many people get turned off because archery can be quite expensive. It's a sport where you have elitists and people tell you this is wrong and that's right. So I think you need to give people breathing space. And if they like it, then encourage them. Otherwise, just let them be. Do what you enjoy, not what other people think you would enjoy. The chicken. I think you said hi from me because you are a Monash student. That's great, by the way. And Corey and Paro. How much should I spend my first bow? As much as you want. That depends on what you need. If you just want a bow, then no more than 200, 300 bucks on your kit. But if you want to compete, then be willing to spend up to 500 to 700 for your first bow kit. Australian dollars. Because I know you're Australian. But a competitive bow kit might be $1,000 to $2,000 easily. But if you're starting out, you don't need the best bow. Just depends on what kind of archery you want to do. But no less than $100. Otherwise, you're gonna find yourself regretting your purchase. Graham Smith. I have an NUSensei and X Prime limb, 6 inch, 30 pounds. What is the best way to measure for a new string? Use your old string. That's the best way. If you already have the string, then use your old string, use that as your measuring length. Do remember that because your string has twists, you should make the new string to be slightly longer than your current string because the twists make it shorter. Additionally, there might be some stretch as well. What I normally do is follow the ATA standard, or the AMO standard rather. So if it's 6 to 8 inch string, then buy a 6 to 8 inch AMO string, or a 65. It's a 68 inch AMO, which means it's a 65 inch actual for most strings. If you buy the standard length, they should fit your string with a few twists if you need a certain brace height. Otherwise, if you're making a string from scratch yourself, then it's not a bad idea to use your old string as that measurement because they should get your brace height correct. Bearing in mind that you have that discrepancy with the string twists. Yeah, a measuring tape, but otherwise, yeah, if you know the bow length, then you should know the string length. It's easy to just go like that. Gonna have a drink first. All right, Nick Gill. Are there any rules in archery comps preventing participants from creating a custom sight bracket if your riser doesn't have the mount on? Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. The rules in World Archery do not stipulate anything about what accessories you choose to mount on the sight. It says you can't have any electronic aids. You can't have a magnified lens on your sight. It has to be a plain lens or a plain iron sight. But it doesn't indicate how you mount the sight. If you have, I don't know, a metal pin and you want to duct tape onto your riser, then you can. If you want to get like some foam and stick a drawing pin into it as a makeshift sight, you can. There's no regulation on how you attach your sight. It regulates what sight you have, or you can't use rather. Again, you can't use any form of magnified lens. But yeah, there's no rule about how you put the sight on. And yeah, some risers don't come with the bushings for sights, so you can make your own. Ethan, hello Ethan. Yeah, I'm tempted to shoot at the Monash. I love the venue for one. It's great seeing people from Monash. You know, a lot of people from Waverley, come to watch my stuff, and it's nice to hang out. I might hang out anyway. I might not shoot. I might just hang out with people, like I did with the last tournament, which you missed. Just hang on and chill. But although, like when I go, I feel like I should have shot. But we'll see how I go. I've got like a few days maybe, or maybe it's past the cutoff already. But I mean, I want to start slow again and do more serious shooting a bit later on. But we'll see how I feel. And the chat's going crazy right now. Where am I? Let's see, Graham, passed it already. I've lost my line here. Let's see, Afrojack's Gaming. I've injured my back during an archery session. My coach said as my doctor says I can't do strenuous activity for 6 months. If I tape it up, can I train my own with a light recurve? Yeah, go very light. Yeah, go for like a 15 pound bow or 20 pound bow at most. But take it easy on yourself. Like if you're injured, let yourself recover. Sometimes it's really hard to let go of that training routine. You've got to do it. But if you're injured, let yourself recover. That's really important. Um, Especially if you hurt your back during an archery session. If archery caused it, then you've got to take it easy on yourself. Start very light. I'm not being sponsored to say this, but the bow trainer is actually a good tool for that sort of thing. I've got one. I haven't reviewed it yet because I've let it to somebody else who actually had the same problem. He injured his shoulder during a road accident, and he shoots a 40-pound Korean bow, and you can't get a 20-pound Korean bow. You basically shoot that or nothing else. So I lent him the bow trainer, and he was able to rehabilitate his shoulder. So if you want to rebuild strength and not overstrain yourself, then getting a stretching band or a tool like the bow trainer wouldn't hurt. The bow trainer is very expensive, by the way, but it's a very good tool for people like you who need to recover the strength gradually. John Lee, when an archery team underperforms, how much blame would go towards the coach? And we talk about a League of Legends team. TSM performed poorly and everyone blamed the coach. Okay. This is a general sporting question. This is for any sport, whether it's boxing or football or football or football. Um, it, that's tough because look, the coach or the manager is responsible for the team. They're the ones who decide often the team selection, which players to use, which players to bench, how to train them, and it's they are the ones responsible. Okay, so if then they're not the ones on the pitch or on the field or on the computer, the players are. But the coach is responsible for the players. They're the ones who are accountable. The board pays the coach. The coach has to make the right decision. If a player does not perform, the coach is inherently responsible. Now, sometimes you might see that a player is doing really poorly in general, but often it is the coach will take responsibility regardless because that is their role. It's kind of like, look, as a teacher, again, I'm a teacher. If my students don't perform well on a test, is it my fault? Now, you will probably say, and I will probably say, that I've done what I can. It's up to the student to perform. So if they choose to sleep during the test and not try at all, then that shouldn't be my fault. But at the end of the day, who are the parents going to blame? Their kid or me? When I write the report, am I going to say, it wasn't me, it was the kid? No. I have to take responsibility. So any kid who fails a test is in some way my own failing. And I think a coach or a manager would probably feel the same way. They can't blame the player. They might know the player's shortcomings and they might understand why it happened, but the coach will take the blame. And if the fans blame the coach, that may be a little unfair for the coach because the coach isn't playing the game. But there might be an inherent problem which the coach might be responsible for, and especially things like esports where there's a lot of drama between teams and it's very high profile, then that may be the case. Some coaches can be quite controversial. If you think right now, for example, with the Australian Socceroos trying to qualify for the World Cup, a lot of blame goes towards the coach. Even though he's not the one playing, he makes the strategic decisions and the tactical decisions. So coaches will inherently take the blame. They won't blame the players at all. If the fans blame the coach, it may be warranted, it may not be. It just depends. For archery, it's... Oh, I actually said it. Just to revisit the question from John Lee again. If it's an archery team underperforms, that is often... because archery is so individual, it's usually going to be the athlete who will take the blame. The coach depends on like what country too, by the way. But mostly the coach is not the same. The coach doesn't have the same responsibility in making an athlete good, unlike in other sports. I mean, some pro athletes have very good coaches, but many of the athletes which reach the world level or Olympic level largely do so without the intervention of the coach. They already have a good training routine. They might have a personal coach to guide them through their journey, but many people reach high competition level on the back of their own work. Now, often the national coach has very little role in the archer development. Because the archer has to first make the national team and then the coach comes into play, if even that. And often the coach will only coach them for like like maybe a training camp or maybe the practice sessions before the actual event. And many archers shoot without a coach. It's often the case where the coach is not going to be to blame. The archer already has very strong form going into competition, and whatever mistakes they make, they'll take upon themselves. If you follow any archers on Facebook, they'll always say it was their fault. They weren't shooting well, they're in the wrong mindset. No, we will blame the coach. The athletes definitely won't. And most athletes won't blame the coach, but the athletes won't blame the coach. And most fans don't even know who the coach is most of the time. But like I said, the coach is actually not a big part of archer development. They're often either for the national team or they're the high performance coach. For people who just join the team, then there's like basically no interaction for coach apart from their own. Let's see. Question from Winhow. Why do you only run the trial sessions on Saturdays only? That's on my club, I guess. It's staffing. We're a volunteer organization. We've always run Saturdays only. Our club's changing to I think Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, but the common try is only on Saturday morning. Main reason I know there is a demand. There is some demand for Sunday. The main thing is staffing. You need people who can turn up to run the session. Some clubs have enough people and enough facilities and equipment. They can run larger sessions, maybe twice a day or like every day, weekends or every day during the week. My club is a very small club. I mean, like when you have literally like 3 or 4 people who can actually run the session, then you can't overbook and overstress volunteers out. That's why we have 1 session per week for beginners. That's enough for us for now. We might expand in the future, but that's something which is not likely to happen anytime soon. But we are discussing some changes, so let's stay tuned for that. Shiptain again. I have a habit of loose anchor. My thumb touches my neck, but sometimes it doesn't do so. I find enough consistent in shooting. How do I fix it? Blind ball shooting. I say this a lot. Any problems you have, remove the target, go as close as possible, close your eyes if possible, get the feeling of the shot. You'll be surprised at how often the target distracts you from actual shooting. Let yourself feel the shot. Don't try to force yourself to hit a target and do form checks at the same time. So I do recommend that you close your eyes, feel where your anchor is, or feel where your anchor is. Again, try it now if you want. Like literally, if you try to aim at something, play anchor right, you'll struggle. You close your eyes, there's no pressure, you can feel the shot. So get the anchor right, expand, and you get to the clicker or whatever you're using quite easily. I always recommend any form problem, any habit you want to break, close your eyes, blind ball shooting. Let's see. Slim Young, love your videos. That's not a question, but thank you. Glad you enjoyed the videos. Stony RC, I'm a bloody star. Thank you, I guess. that's nice of you to say. Scope Nation, you roasted my boys at the club with the click advice. Yes, I just did. Also, is that a front stabilizer on your bow? I've seen a front stabilizer. I'm not sure what you're talking about with my stabilizer. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Oh, talk about my NUSense with the top stabilizer. Yes, it's a mini stabilizer. It's yeah, I have the long rod and I have the mini stabilizer on my CXT. It's still missing for looks. I guess it does add some balance, not much, but it looks cool. Makes my belt look different. I think some people really go overboard with the weights, but I'm just I'm not that picky about my weights just yet. But at least I know it's my bow. When you have a whole line of black bows, you kind of forget which one's yours. I have on one occasion picked up the wrong bow because it's a black bow. It's the same thing. Um, let's see. John is clarifying what I think David meant. David Seamoss. He doesn't have 3 or 4 stabilizer or something. The bow attached. I'm not sure that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's what he meant, but I answered the question already anyway. There's no rules which say you can't drill your own bushings. There's no rule about that. The rules are very clear on what you can and can't do. And again, with bows, it's mostly what you can put on and what you can't put on. It's not about modifying equipment. As long as you don't modify illegally, then it's fine. For example, if you modify a bow to have an integrated laser sight, then no, you can't do that. So that's the point there. I'm just gonna go back to my questions, refreshing. As you can tell, I'm reading the questions from top to bottom. So if I see the question again at the bottom, I'm gonna okay, thanks. I've seen your response. Okay, that looks good so far. John Edwards, Topunk should give me royalties. I bought 2. Yeah, the funny thing was because the guy who distributes Toe Point in Australia, or just started doing so, he's based in Melbourne as well, and he heard of me, and one of my club members has been helping him distribute and market the bows, and he recommended me. So this is an unusual thing. Most people contact me online to send me gear. At the moment, I'm expecting a package from Legend Archery. They do bow cases mostly, and they've just released a new Atom bow case, and they're sending me that to review, which is amazing. It looks like a really good case. That's what mostly happens. They send me free items to review. There's no pressure. There's no payment. I don't want payment because you have to declare that, and payment means it's going to be biased, and you've got to be very defensive what you say, that sort of thing. I don't want to do that. I was offered payment to review the equipment. I said no, I don't want payment. I want to keep it as it is. Still hard, still tricky, and I because he saw me in person and gave me or the club the bows in person, I felt that I didn't want to make him look bad. Now that was kind of the thing there. But at the same time, if the bow sucks, then I can't hide that. In the end, the accessories were bad, but the bow was okay. And for John Edwards, if you enjoyed the toe point, then I hope you enjoy it. I think they're pretty decent bows actually. The funny thing was Thorin, who you saw in the other video. He was really bagging the bows. He was calling them toy bows. They were cheap Chinese bows, and he shot the toe point for like half an hour, and he liked it. He actually really liked it because it works. The bow did its job, and the reason why I had the shoot off was one, to show how bad I was at bear bow, but two, that a decent bear bow shooter, decent anyway, can make the toe point work, and the bow doesn't make the archer. I shot the TFT. It was a beautiful bow. If I had to choose, TFT by far. It just feels so much better. But as far as results go, you can see that a bad bear bow shooter will lose to a decent shooter with a toe point. It works fine. But good to see that. I think it's only fair to give certain bows a chance, even though there might be Chinese manufacturers. If it works, it works. Nothing wrong with that. I've lost my point again. I just refreshed my page. Where am I? Slim, there's Scope, there's John Lee, and I am okay, there we found it now. Frederick Sherman, hello. Do you know if the Hoy Horizon is a good riser? I've reviewed it, by the way. Just search up Hoy Horizon review. It's the first result or something. I've reviewed it. It's a good riser. Yeah, nothing wrong with it. It's a good riser. Scape Nation again. Why are Koreans some of the best archers in the world? It's a true okay. It's because there's a lot of um, corporate funding of Korean archery programs. There's a fallacy that archery is a national sport in Korea. That's actually not true. My national sport, or the sport which everybody knows, the Koreans are very good at archery, but it doesn't mean it's a national sport. I mean, national sport in Korea is, you might say, Taekwondo for its cultural significance, but the sports which are national sports are soccer and baseball. So archery actually isn't that popular, but the people who do it in Korea are very good. But from what I've heard, the modern archery coaches and at schools and clubs, they take a lot of influence from the traditional archery schools. So it's not because they have a tradition of archery necessarily, not directly anyway, but they've got a very good level of funding and sponsorship, and the competition to get into national places is very high. It's a prestigious sport. It's there's a lot of rewards. In contrast, many other countries mostly have amateur archers. So for Australia, for example, like there's really no professional archer. Like we don't do it as a career. It's all amateur. I mean, I can tell, for example, Alec Potts, who was the bronze medalist in the Rio Games. He was what 19 or 20 when he won the bronze medal. He didn't have a job. He wasn't doing archery full time. Now he runs a business. So same with Pat Cullen. He runs Pat's Archery in South Australia. He runs a shop. That's basically his life is archery, is running the shop and competing. But yeah, very few archers in the world are actual professionals. And for a country like Korea, where you have a lot of sponsorship of these elite shooters, then it works out really nicely. The same reason why you have like the Koreans are traditionally the esports champions, because again they have the most funding for that sort of thing. It's why you have again, this is back in StarCraft days, StarCraft Brood War. That was a competitive scene because the sponsors were pumping money into leagues and plays and having teams. You wouldn't see that somewhere else. I mean, nowadays it's a bit more common, especially with new games like CS:GO, StarCraft 2. Now we've got other games as well. But yeah, like there's a lot more sponsorship going on. There's a lot more money, so more people can make a career out of this sort of thing. Whereas archers worldwide generally can't make a living unless they're super good and have a lot of funding from somewhere. And it's usually sponsorship funding. Government funding is not won't get you very far. Most archers who do world championships are self-funded. Grizzly Jim, he's mentioned like at the very beginning an hour ago, talk about how awesome he is. Good example is Grizzly Jim. He's typical. He made the world championship team, the British team, for the world 3 championships. Which if you haven't seen that, check it out. He's not actually competing in the video, but he has a cameo where he's standing behind Millie. And he's this big beauty guy. You can't recognize him because he's not wearing his plate. It's strange seeing him in a coach's jersey. It's like seeing Ming play. That's really weird. But yeah, self-funded usually. They have to raise funds or sell their kidney or something to go overseas. So most archers have a really hard time competing. That's why you don't see a lot of really good archers outside of like Korea and the USA, because it's the money. If I ever compete internationally, I'll be self-funded unless I do a Kickstarter and people just send me money. But yeah, I'm mostly gonna be self-funded. I can fund myself. I just suck at shooting right now. I've got the wrong way around. Good shooting, good results normally attract sponsors. But yeah, if you're not a good shooter, then you're basically gonna be on your own. John Lee, I know Swindon also offers compound bows, but I don't see anything talking about them. Are they good? They're good. No, they have another Dragonfly is quite good. They've released a new one recently, but there's nothing wrong with the Winds as far as I know. But I don't shoot compounds, so I don't know. But yeah, it's mostly because Hoyt outmarkets them by huge margins. Like you talk about market domination, compounds on Matthews and Hoyt, an indication of PSC. It's very hard to break the compound. From the Knocking Point. Hi, Knocking Point. Nice to see you. I miss your videos. I like watching people do trad videos because there aren't that many archery videos, and people like Greg from 3D Archery, Grizzly Jim, who really makes videos these days and says he will, but he never does. Knocking Point. Like it's nice seeing other people make videos, and yeah, live is fun. I personally prefer the editing because I like a quality product. Most of my resources are reference material, so anyone who starts out can search up anything and have a straight to the point video. That's what I think the main feedback has been. It's that the videos are concise, they're clearly presented, they're easily translatable for those who are doing subtitles or watching other languages. So it's really straight to the point. You can learn a lot in 10 minutes. Whereas live stream, as you can probably tell, I do this and this and this. It's very hard to find things. It's fun to do, and I actually do enjoy live streams. But I also like being that perfectionist and getting a quality video out. So I do prefer the prepared videos, not necessarily the live streams. These are fun to do every now and then. I actually want to do these more often, but I don't have a reason to. Plus, they take up huge amounts of time. Like it's been like 2 hours, and I have to work too. So there are limitations. Let's see. Next question from Arlo Acre. Is there a preferred riser length for a children's bow? I assume overall length can grow as you swap risers. Will they need longer overall length? Thanks for videos. For a children's bow, depends how young the child is. Most youth, like the really young bows, are like 54-inch. That I don't have one here right now. I don't have one here right now. But yeah, 54-inch. I have one in the club. The you see me shoot the bow in the very low draw weight video. That's just right for a lot of teenagers. You don't need a long bow for teenagers, and they can shoot short bows just fine. But yeah, for like below say 12, and even above that, for some adults, we use a 54-inch bow, a very light one, just fine. Otherwise, it'll be a 62-inch for kids. More than that, it's kind of adult size. So I'd say 54 for the really young kids, and 62 in general. That's what I recommend, especially for a club. When you deal with like mixed age groups. Sometimes again, you see very old people use very light, young, small bows. That sort of thing. Whoops, I skipped my thing again. Question from Marcus Lang. What is wrong with wooden arrows? Inherently nothing's wrong with wooden arrows. Wooden arrows are fine. The problem is that it's very hard for wooden arrows to be consistently made in terms of straightness and in terms of consistent spine. They have to be super well made. That's why you have the modern manufacturing methods for aluminium and carbon. I mean, like as soon as aluminium became affordable and had the technology to make aluminium shafts, that replaced wood right away. When carbon became more popular, that replaced aluminium right away. But if you go back 20 years at the Olympic Games, they're shooting aluminium arrows. They're shooting like Eastern arrows, aluminiums. But now they're using carbons as a standard. So yeah, wood is it's not the lightest material. I mean, the carbon shafts, or especially the carbon aluminium shafts, they have like more. They're lighter, but they're stiffer. Whereas to achieve the same thing with wood, you need a very dense, thick shaft. So they work for traditional bows, and that's what you're meant to use for traditional bows. But for competitive shooting, it's very hard to be consistent with wooden arrows. Sony Nguyen, I broke my leg. Should I shoot from a chair? And can I shoot from a wheelchair on a competition? You can shoot from a chair. I mean, wheelchair archery is the same sort of thing. Para archery uses wheelchairs. Can you shoot from a wheelchair in competition? I'm not sure about that actually. Depends on what level you're talking about, whether it's world level or local. If it's local, probably. If it's world level, there might be distinction made here. I'm actually not sure about that one, or how much it crosses over. Yeah, I actually don't know that exact one. John Lee, why do compound target bows cut off at 40 inches? Compound bow question. I don't know. Ask a compound shooter. I have no idea. Alright, just catching the recent chat here. Tenta Panda. I think you're thinking of getting a toe point R2. The PVC bow had a very light draw weight. Should I get a heavier draw weight for the R2? Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. Depends on. I don't know what your weight was, but if you're gonna buy a bow, buy a decent weight. I mean, 25 pounds to 30 pounds for your first bow is a good weight. Most people can work into a 30 to 40 pound bow with consistent training. So I'm not sure what you shot with your PVC, but go for a 25 pound or 30 pound bow. That's a safe bet. John Lee, why are Koreans not as good as compound archery? They're very good. If you've seen like the recent World Championships, the Koreans won compound. So they're very good at compound archery. I guess they're not as good because I don't know why, cultural thing maybe, but yeah, I guess there's more prestige in recurve. Plus, by the way, Korea recurve is an Olympic sport. Compound isn't, and there might be a factor in having an Olympic team more so than a World Championship team. That might be why. That's my theory. It's to do with the Olympic status more so than the compound status. Uh, Bob Joe. Yeah, question from Bob Joe. How does aiming with both eyes differ from aiming with one eye, which method is better for compound? Most archers shoot two eyes. Binocular vision is easy to acquire a target and get the alignment in a shorter time span with two eyes open. You shoot with one eye, but the issue with one eye is that you need a way to block one of your eyes using an eye patch or something. Because if you close one eye, you strain the muscles in your face, and that can get fatiguing over a whole day. It changes your anchor point. It just adds more strain. So generally speaking, we're made for binocular vision, and it's easy to sight target with binocular vision. So I was just seeing Escape Nation make a comment about making myself saying new lots of times. I'm not sure why I would do that. I mean, I say new at the beginning of every video, so you could just remix that, but nothing to add there. And I've actually managed to reach the end of the chat. It's only taken an hour and a half, which is actually pretty good. I started late, but that's pretty cool. And I finally caught up. Yeah, back to Ted the Panda. I believe the PV said was 20 pounds. In regard to arrows, do I get replacements for hydroids? Yes, you need to get replacements. If your current arrows, if they're correctly spined for your bow, might be okay if you're going like 2 or 3 pounds higher. But once you start going 5 pounds higher or above, the arrows will no longer be matched. That's what I showcased with the toe point R2. They were good for 24 pound, but they were terrible for 32 pound. It was actually dangerous to shoot from a 32 pound because you couldn't tell if they were going to clear the bow and not deflect somewhere else. So yeah, if you're gonna go from 20 pound to 30 pound, you need new arrows. One of the things that I'm planning on doing is how to buy arrows. A lot of people ask that. Every time someone sends me a bow to review, I actually have to buy a set of arrows to go with it because the companies or shops don't send me arrows; they send me the bow. Yeah, Morton just said new bow, new arrows. Yes. So the reason why the toe point didn't work was it didn't come with the right arrows. The reason why I made it work, I happen to have a set of arrows which I got for the Mandarin duck. New bow, new arrows. Yeah. My Mandarin duck is 35 pounds. It's about 32 in the fingers. So I bought my Carbon Express Predators just to use with the Mandarin duck. Because if I'm going to use the bow, I might as well use the right arrows. Because again, one of the problems with a lot of reviewers on YouTube is that they'll shoot random arrows out of their bow. They'll bring the camera, show the target, and say, "Oh, the arrows are everywhere." But to me, I think it's a poor showcase of the bow if you have the wrong arrows. To me, there are two cardinal sins of bow reviews. One is shooting with terrible form. That's me, and the other is shooting with the wrong arrows. Form is forgivable as long as you can see what's wrong with the form and you know what you're doing wrong. Then you can concede that. But the arrows, so many people do reviews without understanding the relationship between the arrow and the bow, and as a result, they get the wrong impression. They'll say the bow is okay, but the arrows don't fire very well, and they'll blame themselves, or they'll blame the bow, or they'll blame the arrow. It's actually an interaction between the three things. And I think that will be it. It is now 10:20 in Melbourne time. Thank you for everyone for joining in. We've reached the end of the chat, and I'm pretty happy to say that I think this worked well. Again, I do apologize for the late start for those still with me. I understand why it happened. I'm still playing around with the camera settings. I think this should be okay. The camera on the Surface Pro is actually pretty decent. Just that the OBS settings were defaulting to a very low resolution. And now I'm using my microphone from my PC, my Blue Yeti, which I use for the voiceovers. So this should come out with slightly better quality. There is some slight background noise from my PC fan, but otherwise this should be bearable. Yeah, so I think that covers it. Ted the Panda, yeah, the toe point bow. The arrows that come with the toe point bow are crap, by the way. They're fiberglass, they're terrible. I'm going to review the R3 very shortly. Those arrows will be slightly better because they're 500 spine, which is better. It's better for the high poundage bows, but they're still terrible arrows. We tried them, they're not very good. This is weird material. It's kind of like this serrated material. It's like the way Thorin described it was, it's like putting a cheese grater onto your arrow rest. It just feels really weird. Shit's okay, but there's no, like, if your shaft isn't smooth, you're gonna have problems, right? So yeah, I'll explain more in detail later, but it's a terrible arrow. Anyway, that will be it for tonight. Thank you for following. I'm going to be doing a lot more shooting outdoors, hopefully next few weeks. I've got to clear my my marking teaching backlog. There's a lot to do, and plus I just installed Assassin's Creed Origins, and I'm starting to enjoy that. It's not quite the same as what I'm used to, but that's what we'll do for the next half an hour or so, I guess. But thanks for joining me. This is again, it's quite fun doing these live streams, and hopefully we'll see you in about a month's time. This is NUSensei. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.